Do you think if I played back everything you did online, where you went and what you said for the last year, and I could edit it any way that I want, do you think you'd look good or do you think you'd look bad? Do you think I could edit that information to make you look bad? Perhaps to make you look like you even had some criminal intent? Well, my name is Ross McLean. I'm former law enforcement, former bodyguard to Billionaires, and Fortune 50 global security. I've worked in counter surveillance, electronic counter surveillance, and close protection for a long time. I used to build top secret rooms so that you could not be listened to in those rooms. And what I'm going to tell you, and we're going to go over today in this video, is about a new law being passed in Canada that they want to pass. That is one of the scariest things I've heard of for giving this level of control to the government. I used to say to people when I worked, for instance, in corporate security, I could look at everybody's email, their expenses, their access card times when they came in and out, everywhere they went, when they walked throughout the building with close CCTV. I could look at all of their internet access. I could see when they were shopping, when they were supposed to be at work. I might even see where they looked for something, but something inappropriate popped up on the screen. And I could gather that information if I wanted to. I think I could make just about anybody look bad, because it's hard for any human to pass that level of surveillance. But that's what we're talking about giving to the government now. Now, when I did the close protection work and the surveillance work and everything else, I would not use that to discipline people or to fire people or anything unless it was criminal. And you need someone with character when you're able to look at that level of information on people. You need someone with character to deal with it, not leak it, not put it out, not send it anywhere. You know, it said that they had some issues with some of the big credit card companies. They would look at the Uber cards that some of the big stars would get, even supposedly some people on the Supreme Court, and they'd be able to see where they spent their money, when they did, and how they spent it. Not very good for other people to have that information. I'm going to go into this reaction video here. I'm going to react to you. This is going to be a member of parliament named Roman Baber. He's in opposition. Now, he's interesting because he formerly came from a Soviet country and he understands what the government can be when it goes too far. He's also a lawyer, and he's questioning a privacy lawyer who specializes in your privacy about this new bill and what it can do. Let's get into it.
I came across one of your YouTube videos on this law that we're studying now, C-22 lawful access, and I'd like to provide the committee a quick transcript of your remarks. If Bill C-22, the Lawful Access Act of 2026, became the law, the government of Canada will be able to secretly order Apple to build in a capability into its infrastructure to allow Canadian law enforcement and national security folks to track every iPhone, every iPad, every Apple Watch, every Apple AirPod, and every AirTag in real time.
Okay, let's stop it right there. We're talking about the government being able to give a secret order. And I'm telling you, people do not understand enough about the secret orders that the government is able to get away with. They're done secretly. They don't have to be revealed for a number of years or decades, I believe it is, but that's a secret. So you don't know what they're ordering. But here they're saying that they can order Apple, trillion-dollar company, to change the infrastructure of their phones. Either that's going to be the firmware or the software, so that they can turn on the microphone in your device whenever they want. How comfortable do you feel with that? How comfortable do you feel with the government turning your phone into a tracking device, turning on a microphone that you have with you everywhere you go, everything you do? Pretty much, right? They just dealt with Meta, who made those little glasses that could look out in real time and they were intelligent. Turns out they weren't so intelligent. What they were doing was taking whatever you had on the video camera, relaying it in the cloud to a bunch of third world workers who would watch what you were doing and then interpret it in real time and type it in. So it seemed like they were AI glasses. I mean, think about that. Some other person somewhere is watching whatever you're watching and you don't know it. Same thing applies here. When the mic comes on, when the tracking goes on. Let's continue on with this.
they'll now be able to require Apple to confirm whether they provide you with any services. Then, law enforcement can go to Justice of the Peace and get an order without actually believing that a crime has been or will be committed, requiring Apple to hand over every device identifier for every device that you use with their services. That's the digital ID for your phone, for your iPad, Apple Watch, AirPod, Apple TV, Apple AirTag.
So let's look at that. The police can just go up and ask any electronic service provider to provide all the information about every device you own. Now they're using Apple because a lot of people use Apple for this description here, but basically every device you own, they say these are all the devices. Then they can just go back to a justice of the peace or a judge and ask for a warrant for all that information. Do you want to know how crazy that is? You know how many electronic services you're using right now you don't even know that could be used against you? You know, these headphones that I have on, I looked at the contractual agreement for it. You know what it does? Everything I listen to on these headphones goes back to a server that the manufacturer has. And they look to see what I'm looking at, what I'm saying, and what I spend my time doing. They're building an advertising profile on me, and then they're going to sell that information to other people. But you know who else they could sell that information to? To law enforcement. Law enforcement would say, we want to buy that off you. They may not even need a warrant to get it. In fact, that's happening now with many vehicles. The car you drive sends all kinds of information back up to the cloud for your provider. And that information is bought by your insurance company in some cases. They use that to look at your driving. Did you ever speed, roll through a stop sign? How many people are in the car? How much do you actually drive? And they can use that to raise your rates. The police can also buy that information or get access to that information. If you drive your car anywhere, they'll be able to tell where you went. Maybe you're smart and think, I'll leave my iPhone at home while I go off and do something. Too many other things are tracking you. Even your TV, you know that inexpensive TV you bought from that big retail store? It does the same thing. You got a good price in it because it takes a picture of your screen every 2 seconds. And it sees what you're doing, what you're watching. Are you playing Doom? Are you looking at a home channel? What are you looking at? What do you watch? And they sell that as advertising information. The company that sells those TVs, by the way, sells the TVs almost at a loss. They make all their profits from selling your data. Watch out for that.
With that information, they can go back to the judge and get an order, again, without actually believing that a crime has been or will be committed.
Mr. Baber,
requiring...
Mr. Baber, please. Baber, sir. Mr. Baber, please, if you could just slow down a shade. Please.
I'm almost finished. Requiring Apple to give them the moment-by-moment location of all of your devices. Oh, and that secret order also required Apple to keep your location history for a full year, so cops can get that too.
Now hold on again. They can go back to a judge, JP, once they got all the information about all your devices, and say to that JP, you know, I don't even think the guy did anything wrong or criminal. I just have a suspicion, and I'd like to look at that information. Do you mind giving me a little order so I can go ask for all that info? And once again, this is going to give information on all your devices, every site you visited, every phone call you made, who you made the call to, how long it was, where you went. This is something called metadata. And everybody, this is the big line you'll hear from law enforcement or from the security services, trying to get access to this information without having suspected there's a crime or built a reasonable case for it. I can tell you all about your life by your metadata. I don't need to hear what you say to someone. I can tell exactly what your life is all about just from the metadata. Who you talk to, who you went to, what are your health problems, what doctor you go see, what pharmacy do you go to, when does your spouse leave, and then where do you go right after your spouse leaves, and who do you visit there and stay overnight with, and all sorts of stuff. I don't need to hear what you actually say. I can just tell by where you go and what you do. Now, where this should really concern you is this data, once it comes out, how is it stored? Who has access to it? Right now, we're going through a massive corruption scandals within the Toronto Police Department and several police departments, because guess what? They found out that officers, sworn officers, allegedly, we'll say this allegedly, not fraud, but allegedly, were going into the databases and getting information to give to organized crime, cartel people, other ones who are looking to get information on women they wanted to date. They're looking for information on exes, on spouses, all sorts of stuff. They're illegally using those information databases to glean some sort of an advantage, and it's not legal. They didn't catch all these people doing it. Who knows how much that goes on? What goes on with this data once it gets out?
So what's the problem, Mr. Fraser?
All of it. All of it. Certainly, the judicial oversight, I have very few concerns with. The threshold is obviously important. But if you take a look at all of these pieces as they go together, so part 2 can require an electronic service provider, undeniably Apple is an electronic service provider, subject to a secret order to preserve metadata, location information, all that sort of stuff, and even build in new capabilities to their devices. That's under section 7(2)(a) and B. And then you look at, so once that information exists, you can go to a judge and get an order on reasonable suspicion related to confirmation of service, then reasonable suspicion related to basic subscriber information, then reasonable suspicion in order to get metadata, tracking information, transaction information that they've been required to save. So this is an entire package, or a potential entire package, that we need to look at holistically and in detail.
So this gentleman is a lawyer who specializes in privacy law. David Fraser. Follow him on X if you find him. He has some good content there. He's pointing out that as a lawyer, reading that legislation, they can do all of those things. Now, there's a big propaganda PR campaign coming out from the government saying, oh no, we would never do that, just because no, we wouldn't do that. Don't trust the government, they're not your mother. That was the old saying I heard once before. The only person I trust is my mother, and you don't look like my mother. The government is not your mother. Don't trust them. You have to transact with them. Now, something else that lawyer said, which I think is very important, and don't get me wrong on this, I'm all for surveillance when it's done properly, within the law, with the right reasons. That's how you catch bad guys. I remember reading about a homicide one time where they found out how the guy killed his wife because they used a smart meter on the side of the house to see when he turned on the hot tub that he claimed she died in, and it was a piece of evidence for it. And I'm going to have on, by the way, buy this book, if you get it, Confessions of a Homicide Detective, Hank Edzinga, Taking the High Road, one of the top homicide investigators who quite frequently use forensics and surveillance in order to catch bad guys. And I'll be talking with Hank about that in a future podcast, about exactly how it works, without giving away too many secrets. I did an expanded video, actually, on an interview that Hank gave to the news, interpreting cop speak a little bit for everybody. If you want to learn more about his book, go check that video out. It's on my channel. In the meantime, I'm warning you, I'm telling you, you citizens have to be aware that the rules and the laws these governments pass are only as good as the character of those who are going to enforce them and those who are going to carry them out. And then the ability to deal with those people when they break those rules. And so far, I don't think they've earned my trust for that. I don't know how they would own yours. This is Ross McLean from McLean Chronicles. If you like my channel, please like, subscribe, follow, and give me your comments on what you think about the surveillance state.